I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 154, Compromise. I used to think of myself as the wife of a porn addict, but I do not think of myself that way anymore, and you don't have to either. In this podcast, I am going to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you can stop living your life around your husband's pornography addiction. I am going to teach you how to stop being the victim and how to conquer his pornography addiction, even if he never does. I'm Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach, and I am a member of the LDS faith and the wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you? Are you guys having a great day? I hope you guys are having a great day. I am in such a good mood. It is Sunday night, which is when I normally record my podcasts, and my husband and I just got back with our kids. We were invited from a new family in our church. They invited us over for dinner, and it was so fun. And one of the coolest things about making new friends is that you get to start over every time about who you are, introducing yourself, telling what you do, telling all about yourself, what you like, your story, telling the story of how you met your husband, telling all about your kids. And I really enjoy that. I like the ability to start fresh. And here's the beautiful thing about all this, and this is just a little tangent that has nothing to do with today's topic, but just something I was thinking about as I was sitting here, is that you have the opportunity every single day to start telling your story in a new way. Every new person that you meet is a fresh opportunity to start again, to reframe the way that you think about yourself, to reframe the way that you think about your story, the way you think about your husband, your kids, your job, all of these things. When people ask you, what do you do? What do you like? This is a new opportunity for you. You can start over as many times as you want. And it's much easier to do with people you've never met before. But it is also totally available to you with people that you've already met, people that you've had a relationship with for a long time. You can do that again. You can start over, start fresh. And it's just one of the most fun things I think about meeting new people. I should do a whole podcast episode on that and starting over, starting fresh. And I will maybe, but not today. But I'm just in a great mood. We had such great conversations. We talked about becoming, we talked about mindset, and they were like, we should do this every week. It was really fun. And I just had a great experience with these new people. And sometimes I don't love meeting new people. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. The story that I tell myself is that I'm shy and I don't like to meet new people and I'm nervous about what they'll think and all these things. Well, not really. I'm not really nervous about what they'll think. I just am shy. That's the story. Okay. But it was so fun. And I'm so glad that we went and our kids had so much fun playing. And it was just a wonderful day, a great Sunday that we were able to have. And so I hope you guys are having a wonderful day too. We had a great weekend of soccer and thunderstorms, which I love rain. Did you guys know this about me? I love thunderstorms, real rain. On the East Coast, we get real rain. And then I moved west to go to college. They don't get real rain out there. Anytime they get a drizzle, they're like, wow, it's raining so hard. And I was like, this is nothing. You need an East Coast thunderstorm. And that's what we got this weekend. So I was so happy. It's been a wonderful weekend. And it also was a wonderful week, you guys, because I did my How to Set Boundaries workshop. And I just was blown away. I loved all of the women that came. We were able to work through so many things. And it was just an incredible, incredible week. And I love having the opportunity to connect with y'all. So I want you guys to keep a lookout for more coach weeks coming up. I will let you guys know when those will be coming. I think I'm going to do one in May. And I'm really excited about it. So keep a lookout, keep your eye out, go to my website and get on my email list. That way you guys know when they are going to be so that you can sign up, so that you can put it on your calendar and that you can join me, because I love getting to know you guys and I love helping you out. I've had so many messages on Instagram, so many people messaging me on Instagram lately, which I love. But if you want more than just Instagram messaging coaching, then come to these coach weeks and it'll give me the opportunity to get to know your story a little bit more and to help you more, get you more of the help that you need. And of course, if you want more, then you can come join my coaching program and then I'll be able to help you even more. Ladies, today I want to talk to you about compromise. This is something that came up during the How to Set Boundaries workshop this week. And it was so good on the call that I just knew I had to do a podcast episode on it. Now, here's the fun thing about compromise. You guys ready? Is that the definition of compromise actually has two different definitions of compromise. Okay, so when we're looking at compromise, we're going to talk about both definitions today. All right, you guys ready? So to compromise as a verb, which is what we're going to focus on, there's two different definitions. One is to settle a dispute by mutual concession, right? So this is when I give up something, he gives up something, or we make an agreement even though we started off with a disagreement. We're on two different sides or we have two different opinions. Then we come to a compromise where we each make a concession, we each give a little bit, and we reach middle ground, right? That's a compromise. That's the first definition. And then the second definition is to accept standards that are lower than is desirable. And that's what we're going to focus on a lot today. We're going to talk about both, but we're going to talk a lot about the second one, okay? So let's talk about the first one because I think compromise is valuable. I do. I think compromise is valuable. I think it's valuable to say, I'm here, especially we're going to talk about this in relation to our marriage, right? It is valuable to say, I'm here, this is my opinion, you're there, that's your opinion. How are we going to compromise or to reach a mutual concession, okay, to meet each other halfway? Now, if you guys have read my book, there's a whole chapter in my book where I talk about how we want to be right. Our brain always wants to be right, and it's one of the things that prevents us from making compromises, even about trivial things. Our brain doesn't want to make compromises because it wants to be right. It wants the other person to concede that we are right. Now, here's the thing. Our brain wants to be right because then it worries about what it means if we're wrong. Well, what if I'm not right? What if I do concede? What if I do meet him halfway? What does that mean? Our brain wants to not compromise. It wants to avoid compromising because of what we make it mean. We make it mean that we're just a doormat. We make it mean that we're not really as firm as we thought we were. We make it mean that this thing wasn't really as important to us as we thought it was. But when you're looking at, say, an argument with your husband and he has one opinion and you have another, then I want to offer that you zoom out and take a bigger picture. Here's what I mean by that. So often we might think, well, this is really important to me. And that may be true. And you don't have to give that up. But I want you to take a look and say, okay, is the thing that we're arguing about that we are not seeing eye to eye on, that we don't agree on, is that more important than, let's zoom out and say, our marriage? Not that I'm saying that every disagreement is like, wow, my marriage is on the line, but go with me here on this example, right? Normally what we're doing is we are arguing over something trivial. And most of the time, ladies, if we're being totally honest, it's not even about the thing. It's more about the fact that we want to stick to our guns and we want him to concede because we've conceded the last 47 times. You guys with me? Most of the time, it's not about whatever it is that we're arguing about. The subject itself is not the important thing. The important thing is that we stand our ground and that he knows that we're serious and that, then we just get our dander up and we have to be defensive simply because we have to prove a point. And what I want to offer is that we don't have to prove a point. When you take a look at compromising, when you take a zoom out and you say, okay, am I willing to concede a little bit? Am I willing to meet him halfway? Yes or no? And why? That gives us an opportunity to look at what's coming up. Because again, most of the time, what's coming up is our pride. Most of the time, our pride is the thing that prevents us from compromising. Our pride is the thing that gets in the way. The one that says, I was the one that had to give up what I wanted last time, so he should be the one that has to give it up this time. I talked about this a couple weeks ago when we talked about resentment and bitterness and keeping score. And that's typically one of the things that our brain likes to do is it wants to keep score. I had to give it up last time. He should have to be the one that gives it up this time. I conceded more last time. He should have to be the one that concedes more this time. I feel more strongly about this than he does, so he should have to be the one to give it up. Now, I'm not saying that that is necessarily untrue. Maybe you do decide that this is something you're not willing to compromise on, and that's entirely up to you. But I want you to look at the reasons. I want you to know why. And I want you to like your reasons because you're the one that has to live with that, right? That's what I want to offer for you is that you can look at that and say, why is it that I'm unwilling to compromise in this thing? And what if I'm willing to look at it a little differently? Are you guys with me on this? Let me give you an example. Can I give you an example? Okay, so I feel really strongly about video games. And some of you may have no feelings about video games whatsoever. Some of you may love video games. I don't love video games. I didn't grow up with a video gaming system in our house. Our really good friends had one, so if we ever wanted to play, we went to their house. And it was not something I enjoyed. I actually wanted to participate more than I did, but I was the youngest of 7. I was the youngest. I wasn't very good at it. Nobody wanted to let me play. So I spent a lot of time just watching other people play video games, and it wasn't that fun. Right? Even Mario Kart, right? But when I did get to play, it was fun, but most of the time I just had to sit and watch. And so I didn't really enjoy that very much. Now, I have also seen as a parent, research about video games and how much time, and it's something that needs to be controlled, like screens and all of these things. And so I have just thought in my brain, and I've shared this with my husband many times, that I would prefer not to have video games in my house. I don't really want it. It's just something I don't even want to have to deal with. I don't want to deal with having to negotiate time on screens. I don't want to have arguments over the 4 controllers when I have 5 children and who has to take turns watching and how long so-and-so has had a turn and all of these things. I just want to avoid it. I don't even want it in my house. I don't feel like it's I have a lot of personal feelings, okay, which is totally fine. But I have this opinion that I don't want video games in my house. Well, my husband the other day said, I realized that what I want for my birthday is a Nintendo Switch. I think that's what it's called. I don't even know. Okay. I think it's a Nintendo Switch. He said, I want a Nintendo Switch for my birthday. And immediately I was like, no, I don't want that in my house. Okay. But I said, okay, tell me why. And he said, I want to play Mario Kart with the kids. He grew up having a Nintendo in his house. It was a great experience. His family played it together. The siblings all played it together. They had a lot of fun. He has a lot of great memories with this. And again, if you guys noticing a pattern, the reason that I don't like it is because of how I feel. And the reason he likes it because of how he feels, which is based off of our memories associated, right? So totally fine. But I'm looking at what has come up for me. What are the reasons why? And when I'm able to zoom out and take a pause in my initial gut reaction, which is, no, you know how strongly I feel about this. You know all my reasons. I like my reasons. I think my reasons are important. I don't want to negotiate on this because really the negotiation in this type of situation is either we have one or we don't, right? The compromise isn't we're going to get half of one. Like that doesn't exist, right? So as I've been thinking about this, the zoom out that I did was I gave myself a pause and I said, okay, and I probably wasn't as calm and peaceful as I'm saying it here, but I said, okay, tell me why you want one. And he told me all of his reasons. And so I started thinking about it and I said, okay, here's my concerns. Here's what's coming up for me. And we've been able to look at them and talk about them. But here's the most important part is that in talking about this is being open to his side as well. Not just saying, hey, hun, you need to listen to me. Like, hey, Rob, you need to listen to me and here's all of my opinions. But I'm also listening and taking in his thoughts and questioning my own. Okay? Is it possible that I negotiate or that I set up rules ahead of time about how much time they spend on this thing? Yes, 100%. We do this with screens. We don't have any iPads in our house. We don't have any, what are they called? Like Kindles or anything like that. We don't have any tablets. We don't have any iPads. We have one TV and they don't even watch it that much. Why? Because we have very firm boundaries around how much time they watch TV. And it's not a huge problem. And we can do that with the Nintendo. We can set up rules and regulations. And there has actually been several good points that Rob has brought up that I hadn't thought of before. One of which was, if our kids are going to play Nintendo, I want it to be at our house. I want our kids to be playing this at our house so that I can help monitor what it is they're playing, rather than them going to another person's house where I don't know what they're playing. Does this make sense? And that was a good point, which I hadn't thought of before, right? So even just being willing to listen to what he has been saying has required me to drop the need to be right, okay? To not make it mean that I'm, compromising all of my values and that I'm just conceding and I'm giving in, or that if I don't, because here's the other thing is, then my brain wanted to say, well, man, if I don't, then I'm just a horrible person who doesn't want to give her husband what he wants for his birthday. Like that just makes me sound like a witch, right? And so not making it mean that either. Now, we haven't reached a consensus or anything like that, but as we've had these conversations about compromising, what I have noticed is what comes up for me in thinking about why I want it in the first place. So you guys with me? So this is just a simple example, but I want you to think of something where you and your husband are not on the same page. And even just talking about it makes you get really defensive. And if you struggle with that, then I would encourage you to go listen to one of my earliest podcast episodes is called How to Have Hard Conversations. And there's so many good points in there about how to do that, how to navigate difficult conversations. But one of the main points in there is dropping your pride, dropping your need to be right, because nothing good comes from that. All it is you sticking to your guns, even if it's not that important to you, simply so that you prove to yourself that you were right. Does this make sense? But what if you don't have to be right? What if it's possible for you to concede and it's actually what is better? Because when you take that zoom out, that's when you get the broader perspective that gets you what you want in the long term, not just what you want in the short term. Does this make sense? Because your brain is always in the short term going to want an immediate result. It's going to want immediate gratification. And the immediate gratification is, I win. That's what your brain wants. Your brain wants to win. It wants to win the conversation. And so that's what it wants. It wants to push for winning. And if you think you're right, then it's going to push for your spot. But even that, let's say you win and let's say he compromises and he concedes and you're the one that wins the argument. Yours is the opinion that you choose. Is that what's going to cause you to win in the long run in your marriage? You guys with me? It requires you to be on top of your brain. It requires you to be in charge of your brain and zoom out and say, okay, what is it that I really want here? Is it more important for me to win this argument, to win this battle? Or is it more important to me that I look at this and I let it go and I compromise and have the marriage that I actually want? Does this make sense? Okay, that's the first definition of compromise. The second definition of compromise, when we're talking about a verb, right, compromising, is to accept standards that are lower than is desirable. Now, we talked about this a ton this week, and it was just such a fascinating concept because when we're talking about boundaries are the limits and the rules that we set up around what is important to us. And it begs the question of what is actually important to you. Now, if you were part of this workshop, this was work that you did. We talked about what is important to you. It got brought up on the calls. We did it together. And then I asked, where are you compromising what is important to you? So I would encourage you guys to do this work. What is important to you in your life? And where are you compromising that? Is it important to you that you take care of yourself? Is it important to you that you take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, financially? What does that look like to take care of yourself spiritually? What does it look like to take care of yourself financially? What does it look like to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally? And are you compromising that? Are you accepting a standard that is lower than desirable? And I gave this example. What is important to me is that my kids learn about God. That is very important to me. And yet I find myself compromising that a lot. That's what came up for me when I thought of where in my life am I compromising what's important to me? That's the example that came up in my brain. I feel like my thought is that I don't spend enough time teaching my kids about God, about teaching them about Him, studying scriptures, so that they learn about Him and read His stories and all of these things. My thought is that I don't spend enough time doing that with my kids. And that in my brain is compromising what is important to me, which means I'm accepting less than what is actually desirable. I am accepting less than the life I desire. If you guys feel like you are living a life that is less than what you actually desire, it is because you are compromising what is important to you. And that is a hard pill to swallow because most of the time we want to blame it on other things. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time with my kids. When am I supposed to do it? My kids aren't interested. They just throw fits when I start to read them scriptures. Nobody wants to read it. Everybody starts to freak out. It's always bedtime. My husband doesn't want to do it with me. I'm always doing it by myself. And then I get frustrated. Our brain will always blame everything other than ourselves. And what I want to offer to you is that you can look at this and accept responsibility for the areas where you are accepting less than the life you desire, but not make it mean that you have to take the blame. Okay? I did a podcast called Blame versus Responsibility. Go listen to it and then come back and you'll understand this a little bit more. But it is possible for you to take responsibility for where you are without taking the blame. You don't need to blame yourself. We don't need that. We don't need the self-judgment of that. All that does is keep us layered with guilt that we don't need. Okay, let it go. But what I want to offer is that if you take responsibility, if you take a look at your life and you say, where am I in my life? Where am I accepting less than what I desire? What is it that I truly want in my life? Do I want to live a life where I am constantly struggling with triggers? Do I want or do I desire a life where I am more confident? Do I desire a life where I am more lovable? or more loving toward my husband? Do I desire a life where I am giving more grace to those around me? And if you haven't reached that yet, then you are compromising what's important to you. Take responsibility for that. Take ownership of that, because that's all in your power to control and to change. And that's the best news I can give you. This is what I told them on the call this week. As I said, look, if you're compromising something that's important to you, if you are accepting in an area in your life, if you are accepting less than what you truly desire, then that's something that you can change. This is the best news ever. I know I always say this on the podcast to you guys, but it truly is, because your brain wants, again, to make it mean something, wants it to be somebody else's fault. It wants to blame it on your circumstances. But if you constantly blame where you are and the life that you have on your circumstances, then you are always going to be at the mercy of your circumstances changing before you can have the life that you want. And that's entirely backwards. That's what leaves you in a powerless situation where you feel like you're stuck, where you can't move forward, where you can't do anything, you can't change. You're simply waiting. You're simply living in limbo, waiting for your life to shift so that you can finally start to breathe again. But that is not what you have to do. And in fact, it's completely backwards. If you are in an area of your life accepting what is less than you desire, then all you have to do is decide to change it. That's it. And once you make that decision, then you say, okay, how am I going to do it? And then you start making choices to follow through with that. And that's how you stop compromising what's important to you. This is how you start living with boundaries. Okay, this is where you say, you know what? This is my hard line. This is my limit. This is what's important to me, and that's what I'm going to accept in my life, and I will accept nothing less. And it might take some time, and it's going to take some effort, absolutely. And it might take some letting go of some things that I've been compromising. It might take stepping out of my comfort zone, because that's typically what we do. Usually, ladies, wherever you're compromising is you living in your comfort zone, okay? If you say that your physical health is important to you and yet you're not making it a priority, you are compromising what is important to you. Notice that's not what I asked. When I had this class this week, I didn't say, all right, what's important to you and why are you not making it a priority? I said, where are you compromising what's important in your life? And there is a reason that I said that, and it's this definition right here. It's where you are accepting less than what you actually desire. That's compromising, okay? It's conceding. It's where you say, I give up. Why? Because it's hard. Yes, it's hard. Absolutely. But having the life you desire is doable. It is possible for you. And you just have to decide to stop compromising. You have to decide, I'm not willing to compromise the life I desire anymore. So I want to encourage you, ladies, if you guys are willing to do this work, take this episode and think about it and do the work. Pause it, go back, re-listen to it, and apply it. What is actually important to me? Is it actually important to me that I heal from my husband's pornography? Is it actually important to me that I conquer these triggers, that I overcome these insecurities, that I become the confident woman that I desire to be? Is that what I really desire? And if it is, where am I compromising that? Where am I accepting less than what I desire? And how am I going to fix it? How am I going to change it? Because the life you desire is actually possible. You just have to decide that you're unwilling to compromise anymore. And then you make a plan to put that in place. You make a plan to take action in order to create the life you desire. Because the life you desire, ladies, the healing you desire is not just going to happen to you. It comes with action. It comes with movement. Otherwise, you stay exactly where you are. And you deserve so much more than that. Ladies, I want to encourage you today to decide to stop compromising your healing. Stop compromising your emotional health. If you had a child in the same situation, you would move heaven and earth to get them to not compromise their emotional and mental health. And yet you do it all the time. And I did it for years. And we say it in such nice ways. Oh, it's not my time. I can't spend the money on this. My kids need this instead. I'll do it when we have more money. I'll do it when it blah, blah, blah. All the reasons. Time, money, kids, whatever it is. And yet all of it is compromising what's actually the life that we desire. We are accepting less than the actual life that we desire. And I want to encourage you guys to stop that today. You do not have to do that. If you want a life that's different than what it looks like right now, then it's up to you to create it. You just have to look at where you're compromising, where you are accepting less than what you actually desire, and decide to commit to stop doing that anymore. You guys are worth it. I absolutely know it. I love you ladies so much. I will see you guys next week on a brand new episode. So take care. Hello, my lady. I wrote a book and I would love for you to read it. It's called The Not Enough Wife, and you can get it on Amazon today. This book is for any woman who has ever felt like she wasn't enough, not enough as a wife or as a mom, if she didn't have Instagram worthy enough pictures, if she didn't throw Pinterest worthy parties, if she ever felt like she was not enough, this is the book for her, and it's for you too. So go to Amazon today, go search up The Not Enough Wife by Jolene Wynn, and grab a copy for yourself and for all the women in your life. I hope you love it, and I can't wait to hear what you think.